Under no circumstances should you be looking up how to beat a polygraph test. Number one, you can't. Number two, if you do, that experienced examiner is going to be asking you just that question. Have you gone online or have you gone anywhere and looked up how to beat a polygraph test or researched anything about a polygraph examination or test or lie detector? If you say no, they're going to find out. If you say yes, they're going to ask why. Welcome to Inside the Polygraph. I'm your host, David Goldberg, expert polygraph examiner. Join me as I and my guests break down the facts, fictions of polygraph testing, law enforcement, and so much more. Real cases, real conversations. The truth is always revealed inside the polygraph. Welcome to Inside the Polygraph with David Goldberg. I'm your host, David Goldberg. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about a very important subject matter that I often get a lot of phone calls, emails from individuals, and from agencies. This important subject matter is a pre-employment polygraph test. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing what is a pre-employment polygraph test, who would be asked to take it, what is the procedures of a pre-employment polygraph test, how you go through one, what's going to happen if you pass one, what's going to happen if you fail one when you know you have actually told the absolute truth and you fail it, what's going to happen, what can you do if you fail a pre-employment polygraph test, and we're going to discuss a lot of things that involve pre-employment polygraph testing. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I want to read a disclaimer in reference to this episode. On this pre-employment polygraph test subject matter, under no circumstances am I going to be discussing tricks of the trade or insights on how to beat a polygraph test because, number one, there is none. And that's not what this episode is about because there is no tricks or trades of teaching you how to beat a polygraph test. What I'm going to be talking about today is the procedures of how you, as a potential applicant on your dream job, on making the best out of your pre-employment polygraph test so you can get that job. So I'm not going to be discussing anything that wouldn't be discussed to you in your pre-employment polygraph test. I'm just going to be giving you some pointers so that you can do very well. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is not about tricks, trades, or insights so you can circumvent the system in beating your exam, because that's not what I do. I help people, and I want to ensure that people do well on their polygraph examinations if they're going to tell the truth. So if you're ready, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. What is a pre-employment polygraph test? It is a certified and accredited polygraph examination that individuals will take when they apply to certain positions or certain careers that is required for them to take a polygraph examination. You will never have to take a polygraph test if you're a cashier, a salesperson, a CNA, a registered nurse, or anything of that nature. But you will have to take a polygraph test if you apply to law enforcement, if you want to be a clandestine spy, you want to be someone that works in national security, or you want to be an analysis, or you want to be an EMS, a firefighter, corrections, you want to work for an armored car company, or you want to work in a private agency or private firm that requires a top secret or a secret clearance where you're going to be dealing with documents of highly classified material, and you're going to be required to take a pre-employment polygraph test. Who's going to take that kind of test? Any male or female, and there's no age limit unless the agency or department requires a specific age when you apply. So unless they say the cutoff is at, let's say, 35 or 60, unless you have not reached that threshold, then you can obviously apply to that job, and obviously you're able to continue. So that's who would be able and who would have to take a pre-employment polygraph test. And so let's continue. I will say this, and I've said this over and over again, and I stand firm to this today. Those are the individuals that need and will have to take a polygraph test, but I stand on this statement. I believe that teachers, daycare providers, babysitters, and coaches need to take pre-employment polygraph tests. And you might ask me why, and I'll tell you why. Because they are in charge and caring for the most precious individuals that parents, guardians, and grandparents have, and that's children, infants, and teenagers. And you've all seen it, you've all read it, you've all heard it on the news. Teacher charged with indecent liberties with a minor. Babysitter charged with shaken baby death of an infant. Coach charged with receiving inappropriate, explicit photographs of someone he was coaching or she was coaching. Teacher charged with engaging in explicit sexual acts with a minor. Ladies and gentlemen, those are individuals that should need to take pre-employment polygraph testing, because here's what happens. Background checks is what they go through. And you know what a background check, ladies and gentlemen, is? It's horse crap. It means absolutely nothing. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you. A background check, ladies and gentlemen, does this. Unless you, an individual, has been charged, arrested, and convicted of a crime, of any kind of crime, whether it's rape, molestation of a child, robbery, burglary, or whatever, nothing of that nature is going to show up on a background check. So if you have no criminal record, no criminal charges, your background check's going to come back squeaky clean. So when you apply for a job and it shows you have not been arrested and charged with anything, ladies and gentlemen, you get that job. However, that background check does not show that you are looking at child porn, you have a propensity or fantasies or thoughts or wants of wanting to have sex with children. It does not show that you have committed criminal acts of molesting children or sending inappropriate photographs to children, or you have abused physically or harmed children as a previous child care provider in some other state. You just haven't been charged with it. It doesn't show any of that on a background. So that's why a polygraph test for those kind of professions, I believe, would absolutely 100% prove that that's what they've done in the past. I know I've been talking in reference to a tangent on that, but that's why I believe so heartily in pre-employment polygraph tests for a lot of serious professions that deal with teenagers and children. Let's go back to pre-employment polygraph tests. In reference to the type of positions that you'll apply for will be such as the FBI, DEA, Secret Service, or any local, state law enforcement agencies or firefighting departments or EMS, armored car companies that you're going to apply for, or Sheriff's Department, corrections facilities, Department of Defense, you're going to apply for. And so how does the process work? It is a long, tedious process. Before you even get to a pre-employment polygraph test, it takes almost a year or longer before you even get to the polygraph examination process. And so how does it all begin? It all begins by you first deciding on your dream job. And once you decide on that dream job, you're now going to apply. And before you apply, you have to follow what that criteria is, and do you fit that criteria? Meaning age, whether they want a degree, and it doesn't matter what degree, but do you have a 4-year college degree? Maybe they don't want a 4-year college degree. Do you have experience in that? Do they waive a college degree? And so on and so on. After you apply, then you're going to later on, if you qualify, they're going to notify you of a written examination. After you get notified of a written examination, you're now going to sit down at a location with hundreds, and I say hundreds, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes individuals that apply for agencies, departments, they sit down sometimes with 400, 600 individuals at one time and take an examination, all for, hold on, ladies and gentlemen, 25 positions. So you have 400 individuals taking a written examination for 25 spots. So after that written examination, they'll have a threshold of what the score must be for passing. It may be a 75 percentile, it may be an 80, maybe 90 or 95. So if you pass that, you go on to the next phase. And the next phase will be your physical agility. After you pass the physical agility, whatever department you've applied for, again, they'll have qualifications that you must, at a minimum and a maximum, pass. And if you continue to pass on to that next phase, the next phase then becomes what's called a background phase, where you fill out an extensive background packet that goes from anywhere from childhood or from adulthood and fills out your work history, any past criminal record that you might have or criminal issues, all the way up to your drug use, alcohol use, financial history, to references. And then that's passed on to investigators, where investigators do an extensive background check on you. After that background check comes back, should it come back very well, you're then going to be notified of either an interview with that background investigator to go over everything that you filled out. And if that all goes well in that interview background check, you will then proceed to the next phase. That next phase may be what's called an interview phase, where you might be interviewed either with one person or it might be a panel interview. And that interview will be asking you questions based on your application, based on maybe a resume you put in, and basically asking you why the department should hire you, what makes you a good fit for that department or agency, and what qualifies you for hiring, and basically you telling them how great you are. Afterwards, if the panel or whoever's interviewing you feels that you are the right qualified candidate, you'll then be notified of time to take a polygraph examination. Now, when I tell you all these phases are not back to back to back to back. They take a long period of time. That's why I say this process, by the time you get to the polygraph examination phase, can take up to a year or longer. So you are absolutely working so diligent and hard to get to your dream job. Sometimes people even totally forget about it and say, oh yeah, I forgot I even applied to that, and just totally forget. So by the time you get to the polygraph examination notification, what happens to you? Well, I'll tell you. Now comes the really anxious and anxiety-ridden thoughts. What do you think? You think, oh my God, what happens if I fail because I'm nervous? What happens if I fail because I've got ADHD? What happens if I fail because I've got a heart murmur? What happens if I fail because the examiner doesn't like me? What happens if I fail because I don't answer the questions the way the examiner doesn't want me to answer it? What happens if I do this, or if I do that, or X, Y, and Z? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain a lot of things to you right now. First and foremost, under no circumstances in my 24 years of being an expert advanced board certified polygraph examiner have I ever failed an individual applicant or candidate or anyone who's ever come to me for any of important issues, failed them for being nervous, anxiety-ridden, any medical conditions they've ever had or going through, or any prescribed medication that they're prescribed legitimately. Have I ever failed anyone for those reasons? Ever. Matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you this. I'm the only examiner that agencies in the state that I'm in, and the only one that tests pregnant women. There are examiners that refuse to test pregnant women because they are fearful of testing them, or they don't have the experience. And I'm going to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. In my 24 years of doing this, testing pregnant women does not affect the results of the examination of those women, does not affect the woman who's pregnant, and does not affect the unborn child. And when an examiner refuses to test a pregnant woman, you know what that sign is sending to that woman? It's saying that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow you the opportunity to take this test, so when you have that baby, come back to me, and then I'll retest you. And what that's saying is, it's just like being handicapped and basically telling that pregnant woman that you're handicapped. When you get rid of your handicap, I'll test you. And you know what? Pregnancy is not a handicap. And I've tested individuals that have had handicaps. And you know what? It doesn't affect the results. So when examiners refuse to test a pregnant woman, shame on them. They're idiots, and they're also inexperienced. The other issue is that when agencies far away refuse to test pregnant women, they're also doing a disservice to those pregnant women. So again, medical conditions, anxiety, nervousness, emotions, or any type of medication inside of you will not affect the results of a polygraph test by, one, me, two, a very experienced polygraph examiner. Let's continue. When you go to this polygraph examination, it is up to that experienced examiner to, one, ease your nervousness. And if you aren't nervous, there's something wrong, because you will be nervous. And here's the reason why you're going to be anxious and nervous. Number one, the majority of you probably have never in your life ever taken a polygraph test. Majority of you. There might be some that have applied to other places and have, but the majority of you have never, ever, ever taken a polygraph examination. That's number one. So you are anxious because you don't know what's going to be asked of you. You don't know what the process is. And here's the other issue. This job means so much to you. It's your dream job. It means a lot to you, and you don't want to mess it up, so you are anxious. It's just like an individual asking their loved one to marry them. You don't want to make a mess out of it, and you don't want to be told no when you get on your knees and propose to the love of your life. So it's the same thing. You're going to be nervous when you get ready to propose. It's the same when you go and take a polygraph test. You're nervous because you don't want to mess up. That's all normal. It's normal. So if you go to a polygraph examination and you're not nervous, there is absolutely something wrong, and that examiner is going to pick up on it, because either you're an absolute narcissist or you've been through this so many times that there's something else wrong, because you've been through this so many times that this is just so natural and regular to you, and there is something that examiner is going to find out why. So being nervous, ladies and gentlemen, just go with the flow, and that's normal. The other thing that I'm going to tell you is in reference to going to your polygraph examination. The examiner is there for you, and if they are experienced and they know what they're doing, one, they're going to ease your anxiety level down. You may still be nervous the entire time, but they're going to lower it. And hopefully by the time you're going to be tested, and we're going to get into that later, but by the time you're going to be tested, your nerves will not be as high as it was when you first entered the office, and you'll be at a really low level, and you're going to do absolutely fine if you know you're going to be telling the truth. All right? So don't let nerves, anxiety, emotions, or any of that stuff you've seen on TikTok, YouTube, wherever you've heard the horror stories, don't let that affect you. All right? Have you been accused of one of the following in your life, such as infidelity, custody matters, CPS investigations, or serious criminal matters that you're currently being investigated for? At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we have been helping thousands of individuals for over 24 years, no matter who you are or what you have been accused of, with the highest accuracy, integrity, and overall compassion to everyone's needs. We are not your typical polygraph or lie detection service. At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we are certified experts recognized in courts throughout the country, and we stand by our promise to give you full closure and all your needed answers. Call at 757-495-1301 and visit our website at www.executiveprotectiongrp.com to get started. All right, let's talk about what you need to do to prepare for your polygraph examination that you have been scheduled. It's very important. And these are serious, important tips that I'm going to tell you. They're not tricks, they're important tips. And you can either follow them or don't, but that's up to you. But I'm telling you, these are important. Number one, under no circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, no circumstances should you go on to any social media, and I'm talking about YouTube or TikTok, and look up how to beat a polygraph test. I'm going to repeat that. Under no circumstances should you be looking up how to beat a polygraph test. Number one, you can't. Number two, if you do, that experienced examiner is going to be asking you just that question. Have you gone online or have you gone anywhere and looked up how to beat a polygraph test or researched anything about a polygraph examination or test or lie detector. If you say no, they're going to find out. If you say yes, they're going to ask why. And if you have, ladies and gentlemen, that says a lot about, one, your character. Because anyone who's looking up how to beat, again, let's talk about that word. If you're looking up how to beat a polygraph test, that says a lot about your character. That means that you're trying to circumvent the upcoming pre-employment polygraph test that you're about to take, and you want to do something that you're not supposed to do. So my suggestion is why would you even think about doing something like that? I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that under any circumstances. Now, the podcast that you're watching right now, that's perfectly fine. Because I'm not telling you how to beat a polygraph test. I'm not telling you any tricks of the trade or how to circumvent your pre-employment polygraph test. So if they ask you, have you seen anything about polygraph test or anything, you can easily say, I have. I watched Inside the Polygraph with David Goldberg, and I just was listening to his podcast about pre-employment, and they can look at it up themselves, and there's nothing that I'm going to say that is inappropriate, wrong, and they're going to all say, yep, everything I'm saying is absolutely spot on. So I'm just telling you, don't look up how to beat a polygraph test. Next, prior to your polygraph examination, whatever time you're scheduled, whether it's morning or afternoon, you make sure you eat something well-rounded meal. And I'll tell you why, ladies and gentlemen. One, the testing can take anywhere from an hour and a half up to 5 hours. And so if you're willing to stay hungry and hear your stomach growl and be starving during that examination, then it's going to affect you. But here's what else it's going to do when you don't eat something prior to that examination. Food is energy, ladies and gentlemen, and food helps someone concentrate. And you need to concentrate during that pre-employment polygraph test. That examiner is going to ask you multiple questions. And if you're thinking about your stomach starving, and you're thinking about when's my next meal, and oh, I wish I would have eaten something, you're not going to be concentrating on the questions that is most important to you in reference to getting your dream job. So eat something that's going to be satisfying enough and fulfilling enough that's going to maintain your stamina for the hour and a half or up to 5 hours, depending on the agency, for that examination. And if you don't eat, that's fine, but I'm going to tell you this. Red Bull doesn't cut it, okay? That's really good for sugar, but then you're going to have a sugar crash during that examination. It's not good. Coffee, that's fine. Coffee doesn't affect the test, nor does Red Bull. But I'm just telling you, that's not fulfilling for concentration. So I would eat something, whether it's an energy bar, if that's all you want to eat, or whether it's a full meal. Make sure you do not do this. Do not, under any circumstances, drink alcoholic beverages or illicit drugs or narcotics 24 hours prior to your polygraph examination. Number one, that examiner is going to ask you. Number two, if you show up with a hangover, that's not going to help you. 3, you're going to be not suitable for testing, and you're going to be immediately sent away, and you've just blown a year and a half of processing, and you've wasted your time, the examiner's time, and some other candidate's time that could have been in your position. So don't do it. hold off if you really need something to drink. Hold off to celebrate after the polygraph test. Next, get a good night's rest. Again, sleep is energy, sleep is concentration, and here's what I'm also going to tell you. And everything I'm telling you is based on my experience, okay? So if I'm telling you, it's based on my 24 years of doing this and what I've seen, what I've done, and what I've helped people get their dream job. So what I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is rest is important. And you getting 3 hours of rest or 2 hours of sleep and coming to that pre-employment polygraph test, number one, you're not going to be able to concentrate. Number two, you're not going to be suitable for testing. And when I say not suitable, here's what's going to happen. That examiner is going to ask you a bunch of basic questions in the beginning to make sure you are suitable. And if you're not suitable for testing, here's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to send you away. And after a year and a half or a year of all the phases you've gone through, and for them to say, you know what, you need to go get rescheduled for another test, that rescheduling of your test may not be next week, may not be 2 weeks ago. It may be after that academy has already been put in place. So you now have missed the academy schedule that you were hoping to get in, and now you have to wait maybe another year, another 6 months. You'll take that pre-employment polygraph test if they give you that opportunity, but you might have to wait a whole new year to get into that next academy, or they may say, we'll give you an opportunity to reschedule and take a polygraph test. However, once that year passes, you're going to have to reapply and do it all over again. So what basically you've done is wasted all your time, wasted another candidate's time that didn't get picked, that could have had that opportunity to get into that academy. You wasted the examiner's time. You wasted money because of the agency who spends money on putting you through all this. And now you have to go through the whole process all over again, and you get the experience of taking a polygraph test. Big deal. That doesn't mean anything if you don't get your dream job. So get enough rest, okay? It's not worth saying you're not suitable and you get sent home. The other thing is, and this is real important, is dress appropriate, okay? I'm not saying you have to dress in a suit and tie like me, and I don't have a tie, but dress in a suit if you're a male, okay, or a sport coat or whatever, but dress to impress. Don't come, men, with your muscles bulging, okay, or the tightest short sleeves, okay, that show your muscles and that the shirt's about to rip open. Because you want to know something? As an examiner, I could care less that you can lift a VW bug over your head, okay, or you can carry, 4 kegs, I don't care about that, okay, or that you could kick my ass in the polygraph room. That's irrelevant to me, because you may be physically fit, and that's great because you're applying as a firefighter, or you're going to be a law enforcement officer and you're going to be a SWAT team and you can kick the door down. But if you can't pass my polygraph test, it doesn't matter, because those muscles aren't going to do you any good, because you're not going to get your job. So I don't care about your muscles, okay? Show them from when they're really needed, but the polygraph room is not the place to try to flex them and impress the examiner. Women, I'm happy that you're proud of your physique, your breast, or whatever, but don't come in with low-cut shirts showing your cleavage, showing how beautiful you are, because one, showing how sexy you are is not going to impress the polygraph examiner, and because you're so beautiful, and vivacious, that you're going to pass this test, because that's not what this test is about. If you want to be in a beauty contest, then don't apply somewhere else. This is a pre-employment polygraph test, and you need to dress appropriate. Okay? I've seen people come in cutoff shorts, booty shorts, tank tops, and it just brings a wrong message. It brings a message that you don't care, that you don't respect the agency that you're applying for. You think that the polygraph test is a big waste of time. It's a big joke. And the majority of the time, those are the people, when they come, that don't care. Those are the ones that really fail their polygraph test. Trust me on that. Not because of what they wore, but it's just, I can just tell based on character that, something of them, they're hiding something, and then it's found out later on in the polygraph. So dress to impress, that if this is the job you really want, and you're going to be the face of that agency, that department, you want to start from the very beginning. Dress to impress from the very beginning. Okay? That's what I would suggest. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, okay, more for men than women, don't bring weapons to your polygraph test. Number one, you may be coming to an agency that you're not going to even be able to come onto the campus, much less get through the gate. If you have a weapon on you, in your car, and you're going to be having to turn around, even if they allow you to put it in your trunk, you're still not going to be able to come onto the campus. So what a waste. And if, let's say you live an hour, or you live out of state, or your hotel is 45 minutes away, you just are going to be late for your appointment, which means now you've missed your appointment. Now you've been disqualified. Leave the weapon. And when I say weapon, I'm talking about everything from box cutter to knife to pocket knife to handgun to whatever you consider a weapon, to a pick, to whatever. Leave it home. You don't need it because you're not in a combative situation in a polygraph test. Leave it home. And the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing is bring proper ID. Photo ID. Whether that is a driver's license or a passport, you better bring it with you, because that examiner must verify you are who you are taking the test, and that you are not someone else taking it for someone. Has that happened before? It has. Has that person been able to take the test? It has not. And I'm talking about with me. However, if you don't bring proper identification to be verified, you're going to be sent home. Sent home. Even if you say, oh my God, I forgot it at the hotel, or I lost it, or I lost my ID and DMV is supposed to mail it. It doesn't matter. That's your responsibility. Make sure before you leave, check everything. Look in the mirror and check and double check. Do I have ID? Do I have any weapons on me? Do I look presentable? Did I brush my teeth? All that good stuff. Make sure all that is happening before you leave. And make sure that ID is on you. Thank you for listening. And on our next episode, we will be discussing what happens when you arrive for your polygraph examination. Thanks so much for listening. If you truly liked what you heard today, please be sure to rate the show, share with others, and subscribe for more episodes.